We are live 364 days a year. What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I've told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made on YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan. Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get sushi after Monday Night Raw? What is going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, October the 18th. We're here to break down SmackDown. We've got a huge AEW pay-per-view. I can say that this time tonight, but before we do so, we're going to break down Friday Night SmackDown. This is going to be a fun episode as could be because I've got the Old Guys Club and Old Guys Rule. If you don't believe that, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me first and foremost send this one across the country. So a good friend of mine, he's got his Eagles green on right now, but you know him as Anthony Ricciardi. How are you? Happy Saturday, my friend.
I'm doing all right. You know, the early bird special crowd, as you're now calling this. No, it's always fun doing these. It's a Saturday covering SmackDown on a pay-per-view day. Always fun to do, and it's been a while since I've done this with our other co-host. So this should be fun.
No doubt about it. And speaking of, let's welcome back to the Saturday show. We've been competitors on Sunday Fun Days for quite some time now. I finally get to reintroduce Ignacio to the fray here on a show breaking down SmackDown, although I do actually think it was like 3 weeks ago. DCX Warlord in the comments with Ben put a typo in the graphics. Thank goodness you know that I wouldn't do the graphics. Ignacio, though, how's your Saturday? And welcome to the show.
Hey, the A-team is back, baby. Yeah, the A-team is back. Great to be here, Clark. Great to be back on a Saturday. You know, we had an interesting SmackDown, an interesting week for WWE at least. So let's get right to it.
No doubt. Kind of a funky week to your point, right? Like, some ups, some downs, some in-betweens, all of the above, basically. Now this is interesting, though. We've also got Zach Minger in the comments with National Chocolate Cupcake Day. That's fascinating. I mean, and oddly specific. Yeah, like when is Vanilla Cupcake Day and who decided? I've got all kinds of questions when it comes to that. We've got hello from numero one Superfly, DCX Warlord with booing Ignacio. Whoa. Give him a chance, DCX Warlord. Although that may mean he's doing his job. Depends on how you look at it. But give Ignacio a shot here today, my friend. Let's talk, though, about the Intercontinental. Wait,
It's the U.S.
typo.
That's the typo.
Thanks, DCX Warlord, for the heads up. That's wow,
Man,
Ben.
hit me.
The IC Championship. Shoot. The United States Championship. I'm sure he did that on purpose because unlike the three of us in this call, Ben cannot stand a title that represents the United States of America. But the United States champion, Sami Zayn, drops the belt to one Ilja Dragunov, a returning Dragunov. He's only got one knee brace. He didn't go full Stone Cold. He went half Stone Cold.
Yeah.
He's only got the one knee brace. Obviously, we know returning from injury. What a match. I've got a few thoughts really quickly because all three of us really need to break this down. But I got a few just initial instinctive thoughts that came to my mind when I watched this. Number one, little nervous when I saw how the size of the knee brace that Dragunov was wearing. That may have to do with length of legs and whatnot. But I will say it was a big knee brace. So I was like, wow, that stands out. Will that be worked on? Will it not? I'm not 100% sure. It wasn't necessarily in this one. Sami Zayn's run as United States champion with the open challenge, I think, is one of the smartest things the WWE has done in a long time. And I think it's been great. My thoughts, given the result, Dragunov's victory, were that Sami maybe was like, I'm afraid of getting too beat up, having these world-class matches every single week with what's coming up. I'm not 100% sure on the timing because of that. That was what my instinct told me, right? Because if Sammy does beat Dragunov, maybe we don't get another one, but we get more and more and more and more open challenges. And I'm not sure. If anyone was going to beat him of the open challenge series that we had to this point, Dragunov, I'm cool with. And I thought it looked like for a guy in a knee brace of that size, he hadn't lost a step. And I'm going to start with you, man. What were your thoughts on it? New United States, not IC champion. What's going on?
Yeah, Dragunov came back. He looks like an absolute beast. Clearly on the same regiment that AJ Styles and Randy Orton were when they came back from their injuries, where he's just completely jacked. Plus, new neck tattoo. I don't know why that was needed. I mean, he was scary enough to begin with. You add that to the mix. Dragunov is somebody that comes off, and I don't know, but he comes off in a way that I could believe that if he was in a bar fight, he could probably take care of himself. He has that appearance. It's not just for show. His style very much reminds me of Chris Benoit. I know that's, persona non grata, but his style, the aggressiveness, reminds me of that. I think, him taking out Sammy, it elevated a huge return anyway. Like, I've loved the Open Series challenges. It was a full circle moment for Sammy because when he came on the main roster, his debut was against Cena in a U.S. Open challenge. So I love that he was continuing that on. The great part about Dragunov is you can keep it going, and Dragunov can continue to do the Open challenges because he's the type of competitor that it's believable that he would do them. Sammy dropping the title, like I said many times before, I know I said this months ago, my early pick for the Rumble winner is Sammy. So I would believe that that's a logical move to lessen his workload to a degree, to preserve him for the Rumble. Because depending upon what number he enters in that Rumble, which my guess is because where it's located, probably going to be an early number. I could totally see him running a gamut. I don't know if I'll enter at 1 or 2, but I could see him going the distance.
So
dramatic effect.
You brought up a lot of things. Number one, you brought up my follow-up question, which is, does Dragunov carry this beyond
I think
this match? Does he carry the Open Challenge beyond this? And I would be impressed by that. I would enjoy that.
I would think he would because he's a babyface.
But
Heel, not so much, but a babyface, I think he would.
Let's put that on hold just for the second, because the one that I think is really interesting is there aren't that many Rumble numbers that haven't won yet. I'm looking at like a 3, 4, 5. You were talking about running the gamut for Sammy, like a 3 or one of those 6. I don't know. I think it's single digit, but I do think that's definitely in the future. We've got a few comments here that are interesting. Chris Leclerc saying that Sammy called the shots. I don't know if that's helpful to the conversation when it comes to whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, whether Sami Zayn behind the scenes wanted it or not. I don't think that's something that we're necessarily speculating upon here, because obviously the match went down the way it did, and Ilja Dragunov is our new United States champion. For me, what you brought up, Ant, with Dragunov continuing the Open Challenge, and I think also as a nod to John Cena on his retirement tour, I don't know if we've given enough credit to, he built the idea of that Open Challenge.
Yes.
He really did. And I think it would be cool if for the foreseeable future, not forever, because it will run its course, but for the foreseeable future, at least until we get to the very end of Cena's reign, we continue to honor him in that way. I think that's sort of deserved, and it's sort of poetic in a very pro wrestling way. And personally, I just think that's something that I would enjoy seeing. And Ilja Dragunov, given his bell-to-bell work and his workhorse sort of style, can fit that aesthetic well enough of all of the people to beat Sami Zayn. That makes sense to me. But Ignacio, I know you've been chomping at the bit to talk about this one. So I want to ask you about all of it. Your thoughts on whether Ilja continues that legacy, your thoughts on the match last night, maybe even where Sammy goes from here, all of the above. What did you think?
Well, I thought it was a very good match. Look, I like Ilja. I'm a big fan of his work. I was a big fan of him in NXT because he's He's very basic on what he does, but he's also a creative guy in the ring. But he's also very basic and very hard hitting, kind of like a Gunther and a Sheamus and a Miro and in some way and Drew also. But my issue or concern with the whole idea of him winning the championship is that, when he came out, he kind of got like a half pop. And then the rest of the crowd was kind of like, okay, he's back, cool, and we kind of know who he is, but why him? And I think that stems from not everybody watches NXT. And when he came to the main roster, people still weren't familiar with him. So I think they should continue with the open challenge? I think they have to, because like I mentioned before, is not everybody's familiar with him yet. A lot of people weren't familiar with him when he got injured. So I think they have to do it so the fans become familiar with him. And he may not be the best promo, but he did fire me promos from what I remember. So that was my only concern. And then he kind of beat Sammy. I mean, I know Jacob came out. I mean, not Jacob. I'm sorry. My head went blank. Not Jacob Fatu. Solo came out.
Yeah, shoot. By the way, I blanked when you blanked for a second. That was not on you. You're good.
Yeah, Solo came out and he's waved, and then Sammy he just kind of beat Sammy flat. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I mean, right, that's cool too. It kind of makes him look strong. I mean, I don't think that little distraction can, Sammy got an awesome offense on him, and then Ilja beat him. I don't know. I'm not really all for this. Not totally, not all the way, because like I said, the fan base isn't really too familiar with them yet. Right. But I think this is partially a response to what's happened and gone on this week with Seth getting injured and then flipping Braun earlier than they intended, and kind of maybe a little bit to the response to what fans have been saying as far as the product being a little bit stagnant and so forth. And, I mentioned last week, well, this is a stagnant season, or the week before, but and maybe they jumped the gun because now they found out that Jacob Fatu was injured, and we don't know how. I read conflicting things on how long he's going to be out. Right. So I don't think they should jump the gun. So I don't think they should jump the gun so fast on doing things like that because of the fan response. I think they should kind of just wait some things. I think they should just kind of wait some things out a little bit. And I don't necessarily think this was the best idea yet. We'll see how it turns out.
Ignacio, I agree with exactly what you said, other than you gave me one of those light bulb moments for a second when you mentioned the Seth injury. Is this how we get to not win the Rumble? Sammy's crowning moment in Saudi Arabia, given that the title, that title picture has changed. And is this Ilja Dragunov winning, leading to maybe even sooner rather than later for Sammy to go over, not necessarily Mania, but the Rumble? Do it there. Does he have to win the Rumble in Saudi or in Saudi Arabia this year?
I think he wins the Rumble.
Does he win the title in Saudi Arabia this year?
I don't think so.
That might be fascinating. And we've only seen so many title changes there. You never know. That might be interesting. That might be something to note. I also hear you on the Ilja Dragunov and NXT thing, although I think he's so infectious that a lot of people get him. But was it just me, or was there something a little different about his music last night? I think that
Dragunov?
Yeah.
Really didn't notice.
I'm not sure if it was exactly the same, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just, I don't totally know 100%.
They're always changing music, though.
Warlord added that Bianca won at number 3, but I don't think anybody from the men's side has won at number 3. That's a great point, though. He said, I hope Finn comes out when Seth is injured, and it's a full circle moment. I think that'd be fun. Fernando added, I do not like it when talent wins titles as soon as they return from injury. I don't hate it, actually. It's kind of a little bit of like a hitting the finish line on a return from injury, only because returning from something like that is so difficult. That's where I would,
I mean, it adds to the open challenge aspect to it. You don't know who's coming in. So think it adds to it. You don't do it every time. It doesn't happen every single time. Just like every Rumble winner doesn't win in Mania. So I don't have an issue with last night's decision.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on though to our next topic this afternoon here. Let's talk about Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, the friends that didn't want to be friends but are now friends and maybe cast on the show friends.
Yeah.
Friendship. Hashtag. Either way, Flair and Bliss against Zaruka. We've got Zarya and Sol Ruka. Sol Ruka's so good. We've compared a billion people to Charlotte Flair, Sol Ruka being one of them. We've got a figure 8 here, which we haven't seen in quite some time, be that effective. And I dug this. Alexa Bliss has sort of picked up Flair through a lot of this character arc. Now we're seeing Charlotte Flair operating at optimal levels. Maybe this is where things start to break down later, because if everybody's firing on all cylinders, I don't know how close that friendship actually is. I enjoyed the match, but I also think Sol Ruka being the one to lose in a submission was a bit much for me, because I think compared to Zarya, she's the one that's main roster ready. She's the one that should be out there week in and week out. Sol Ruka has been ready for quite some time, right? Take the cookies out of the oven, my friends. Anthony, I got to get your thoughts on it. What do you think?
Well, the acquaintanceship of Flair and Bliss has certainly helped Charlotte. This went from somebody that was being viciously booed to somehow being cheered, which I don't think anybody envisioned Alexa Bliss being able to flip that switch. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. So when you look at it, this was basically a showcase match. This is what it was. Because again, the women's tag division is very light. Everyone wants to go, oh, you got to push the women's tag titles. Okay, but you need teams. There really aren't any. So you're just kind of throwing this in. Zarya and Sol Ruka, I don't know how long they're going to stay together. Zarya is a beast. At some point, they're going to push her for the women's title. And Sol Ruka, she's very RVD-esque in that she pulls off moves that you don't expect to see. I think it's a very difficult spot, whether it's WWE or AEW at this point. We have so much talent and a finite number of spots to put these people in. And if you're bringing either one of those up to the main roster, what are you doing with them? Where are you putting them? Whose time's getting cut to put them in that spot? And I think that's the problem. They have, whether it's men's or women's, it doesn't matter. You have too much talent and nowhere to put them. So, as much as everyone complains when they let certain talents go, I'm like, but you want these other people up. You're like, this person deserves to get pushed to the main roster. Okay, well, they got to take somebody's spot. So I don't know what you do with them. Honestly, I think they're in this weird position. You either keep them as a team in Saruka to push them in the tag division, or you split them up, but I don't know what you do with them long term. I thought this was a decent match. It was a great showcase for both of the NXT talents, but I don't know what you do with them. It's kind of this weird situation where you have too much, but you have no place to put anybody. Where are you putting them?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And that's where it's interesting, because we've long talked about like maybe even like the women's tag team titles being too much, but actually now, given the amount of talent, it makes sense if you can build the division and pair them off. But we're also in the middle of this same conversation, and like I can look in the mirror and admit I'm at fault here. I'm looking at when do Flair and Bliss split and when do Zaruka split.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's very much the business is not, as much as I enjoy tag team wrestling, it's really a solo person's business. That's
totally.
That's where you get to the top. So that's why everyone looks at it that way.
Ask Jimmy Uso.
Listen, somebody's got to be the genetic of the team. It happens with every tag team.
It does. There's no doubt about that. I think it's totally interesting, but really quickly, I got to talk to you about some stuff over at Barista Coffee, my good friends. It's small batch organic coffee created through excellence, authenticity, and unforgettable moments. Head over to barista.com. You will enjoy it. We got hats, visors, all kinds of good stuff, and really good, fresh organic coffee that isn't going to give you the microplastics like over on your Keurig. Check it out. You will enjoy it. I assure you, if you are a coffee fan. But speaking of things to enjoy, let's keep today's show rolling and let's talk more about some tag team wrestling, because this could get interesting from here, my friends. So we have the Motor City Machine Guns taking on Los Garza, and I'm cool with it. The Guns win. And we've got some stuff in the back with Fraxium. We've got the Street Profits. Did this just feel like they went, you know what? For 20 minutes, we're going to do our best to highlight tag team wrestling. Am I the only one that thought that? They were like, that's the best we can do.
Yeah.
They're like, guys, this is it. This is what we got. This is the tag team segment, right? I felt a little bit like gypped, for lack of a better way to put it. Like it was just too short-sighted. Although I like seeing all the teams involved in all of it and everything, I just don't know. What do we do to fix this tag team division? Because the match was solid and even the segment was fine backstage, but all it did was just put a big old microscope in my eyes on just the tag team division just needs help and time and things like that. Ignacio, what were your thoughts though on the match and all the fallout afterwards?
Well, I mean, look, it's never going to be, I know people are tired of me saying this time and time again, but look, it's never going to be like the 80s where, pick a tag team match and that could main event a house show anywhere in the country or in the world, or a pay-per-view like Heart Foundation and the Bulldogs, or the Andersons and the Road Warriors, or Tully and Arm versus early 90s. You know what I mean? We're not going to go back to that again, because kind of like you guys segued into this segment, in that the priority is okay, forming a tag team to see who's going to be the next singles superstar. And that's kind of a little bit of the problem with it. And the match was good. I like both of these teams. I like the Garzas because they're young. They look good. You know what I mean? They're talented. They didn't do anything ridiculous yesterday. They didn't do anything that they did some high flying stuff or what have you, but it wasn't, outlandish. It was tasteful. I like the Motor City Machine Gun since I first saw them in TNA years ago. I mean, it was a good, solid match. I like that gory special they did into the face plant, if you want to call it that. I like the skull and bones, the finish. I liked everything, but the thing is that it was just presented as kind of filler when it should have been a bigger deal. And I think one of the issues is that earlier in the show, you had the Wyatts, who have the tag team titles, and they shouldn't have the tag team titles, but they have the tag team titles, and they're trying to make the title seem a little more important by putting them in a feud with, MFTs and that storyline or that faction, because they want to make it seem more important, but it's not more important, because they're trying to present it as upper mid card, but it's not upper mid card because they're not that over yet. Neither faction is. So I think the best thing would be take the belts off of them and throw them in the tag team division with the tag teams that really deserve, that really need to be highlighted, and give them more time to build stories. And I think that would fire up the tag team division. But, they're not doing it any favors right now, but just using it as filler. And it's just never going to be what it was. I've conceded to that. I'd love the Machine Guns. I'd love the Machine Guns to get their day in the light and have a good run with the titles, because they, out of maybe everybody in that company, they're probably my favorite team. But that's like saying they're the nicest guys in prison, because it's not much of a division.
Yeah, it's so fair. And it's so interesting because, like you said, it felt like an effort to highlight it for just a short amount of time. And then as soon as it was over, it was like, oh no, you're never going to hear about it again. And then you have it separate from the actual tag champs, who is really a story about a team of 5 that we still don't know anything about outside of the Wyatt 6, right?
Yeah. The only thing I think that could have helped it, and that maybe it was the plan and they had to change because Rollins got hurt, was if you would have put the belts on the Bronze and let them run rampant on the division,
fair.
and that could have helped it out a little bit, because then two top guys, like they did with Cody and Orton, it would have taken two top guys to come together to beat them.
Right.
Kind of like what they did with Sammy and Kevin at WrestleMania years ago. And
that was a unified tag title.
I would have
even to one brand.
Yeah, that's the problem that they've got right now. Is and here's what's even worse to me is we named a bunch of good teams: Fraxium, the Street Profits, right? Like DIY and Motor City Machine Guns. Those Garzas are good. It's not like there's not depth in the division.
For
it's
SmackDown.
just not booked as a priority. And I think that the strongest thing you said is the intention, you could feel it, was to make it feel like it's upper mid card. And it didn't. It just didn't. I think that's one of the brightest things that you said there, Ignacio, because that's what's sad to me. And you mentioned a bunch of other greats. I've also acquiesced to. It'll never be what it, right? We talk about a giant pop in wrestling is a Road Warriors pop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll ever have something quite like that, right? Or like even if you look at like the Hardys and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, even if you look at eras like, I mean,
the Outlaws.
I go back and look at the New Age Outlaws. I'd throw in there 100%. Outsiders. I mean, I even look at ECW, right? Too. You got the Gangsters, like all kinds, even like all kinds of great tag teams. It's different. Heck, Mosh and Thrasher were great.
The Headbangers.
Let's stop it. The Headbangers were outstanding. Like,
look, here's the thing. I think we've talked about this a million times before, but tag team wrestling in general, in wrestling, is on a downturn. Like you have teams like Brodito, like you have certain teams that are popping out. Fraxium. In WWE's case, and I know people don't like this, but my personal opinion is because you have a finite number of space and you have all these teams, and most of them are pretty much on SmackDown, do one set of tag titles and have them appear on both brands. I don't know why you have two sets of tag titles. Less is more with some of this stuff. I think that's the only way it works, because right now you have two brands in Raw and SmackDown, and even NXT to a degree. There's no real divisions other than SmackDown. SmackDown's the only one stacked with teams.
It's so
in
true.
all of WWE. AEW pulled them out, for the ladder match at the last show. But like realistically, how often are you really seeing tag titles on AEW TV other than the pay-per-view?
It's crazy to me because AEW, I thought, had sort of the secret, the key to the bag.
They lost all the teams,
and then they lost it. Yeah. They had to bring one back. Like
they had to bring one back. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like the emphasis isn't there. In WWE's case, just do one unified tag titles. I know people get mad about that, but realistically, it's the only way you're going to be able to make this work.
I could not agree more with that. It has to be unified titles. I think Ignacio, you're on the same page too. What were you about to say? Right? Like,
I agree. I think that's the best idea going forward. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. And then have it be separate brands. All right, let's get to this main event because we can spend some time on this, because before we actually get really serious, I'm going to get serious for a second here. If Cody Rhodes is revealed to have taken out Jacob Fatu, I will be the most upset I've ever been on this program. If you think I've made fun of tie clips or weight belts or the stupid song or any of that other goofy stuff that Cody Rhodes does, if he took out Jacob Fatu after he told him that it was going to be all gas, no brakes with it and all of the above, and see Jacob with blood in his mouth from the yay area, everybody steals his slang, all of the above, I don't know if I can handle that emotionally. I don't know if that's something that, for me personally, I'm capable of in the long run handling emotionally. It's going to break my heart. But I'm starting to get nervous that it was. And you know what scares me even worse is that darn Rick Saints, his little buddy from down in NXT, might have been involved too, because it didn't take one man to do that to Jacob Fatu. It took multiple, and I know that for an absolute fact. Yada mean. I'm going to you, though, Ignacio, first, and then Ant, I'm going to you. What are your thoughts on Jacob Fatu being attacked here, ruthlessly attacked on SmackDown, and likely written off TV? My heart's as broken as anybody's. How about you?
Oh, not quite, but I don't think, man, I just don't think that's the route they took. There was a good setup in a good play, the way they set up, the way the deal fell on Jacob and all that, and him selling it. I think they're trying to give Cody a little bit more of an edge, because a lot of people, that's one of the criticisms, that he doesn't have an edge. Even though he did the thing with Seth Rollins and wrestled with a legitimate injury and all that stuff, people just still think he kind of just doesn't have an edge to him. So I think this is one way to kind of give him a little bit of an edge. I don't know what exactly the plan was here, other than I think they planned on doing Jacob and Cody. And if what you're saying is true, and they're gonna flip Cody and bring an entourage like Ricky Starks and stuff around him, then that would position him as a heel, and that would position Jacob Fatu as a top babyface. And I don't think Jacob Fatu is ready for that yet. That's the only reason that's kind of clouding my idea of that. Your theory being true is that would position Jacob Fatu as a top babyface, and I just don't think he's ready for that yet. I don't think he's going to be. I've said it before that I don't think Jacob Fatu is going to be as big a deal as everybody's going to make him out to be. But I would see that they're just trying to give Cody a little bit more of an edge, and I don't think they're really trying to turn him yet. I think maybe they're going to hold off on that until WrestleMania, because I think at WrestleMania it's going to be him and Punk, and I think really that's when they're going to flip the switch and turn him heel.
So it's funny because I agree with a lot of what you said, but obviously Jacob Fatu, you and I have discussed. I'll say this: you met my good buddy Nick Opit at the Rumble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Old casual fan from Chicago. First thing he said when he saw Jacob Fatu is, "Who's that guy?" I go, "Man, he's Samoan Dynasty. He's in the bloodline, basically. He's new." He goes, "That's the next big thing." And he goes, "I know that's Brock Lesnar. That's his gimmick. But no, dude, that is the next big thing. That's a star." That's where I disagree with you. I think Jacob Fatu, to stand out amongst multi-generational stars the way that he even came up to, you look at Solo Sikoa has that same rub. So do the Usos. So does Roman Reigns. Jacob Fatu felt like a surprise at the time, and then he stood out amongst a group of absolute bad A's, right? Bad MFers, whatever you'd like to say, not to use curse words, right? But he stood out amongst a group of the baddest guys that are around. I think Jacob Fatu's future is huge. The point I agree with you on is babyface, not so fast. Not so fast as the ultimate babyface. That's where I fully agree with you, because Cody Rhodes, if this was him, hypothetically, is the biggest heel in the industry. Why would you do that? It doesn't get any more petty than that. There's nothing close to as petty as that. And now you have to have Jacob Fatu return as the ultimate babyface. You've booked yourself into a corner, as the old cliche says, when it comes to that, if that does appear to be the case. And the great news that I have is we've got a Rhodes family aficionado on this program here. His name's Anthony Ricciardi. This guy knows the history of them as well as anybody. So I have to ask you, did he do it?
What do you think I'm going to say? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know.
No, honestly, when they first showed it and Jacob was laid out, I was like, ooh, they did teeth on the ground too. It was a whole, thing. I didn't know who attacked him. However, when Cody went out there to confront Drew on the mic, that made me think this is Homelander. Cody did it. I think Cody's the one who took him out. Whether or not he had help from a Ricky Saints, an Ethan Page, maybe there, somebody else. I
Sean
don't,
Spears.
The other ones, the Retribution knockoffs in NXT. Maybe that's how they salvage those idiots. I don't know. But I'm thinking we're seeing a heel run here. They're not booking themselves in the corner because Jacob's already a babyface. What they could do, because next year's Mania is in Saudi. If you don't have Sammy win the Rumble, then I'd have Jacob do it. And then you can have Jacob and Cody. I think everything's up in the air now because Seth's out. Because I think the plan was Seth and Punk. I think that was the plan for Mania, personally. I think that was their intention for that world title. I think everything kind of went up in the air with that. Sammy overcoming a monster heel Cody is not a bad move if they decided to do it this year. I don't know. None of us know how long Jacob's out. The rumor is mouth surgery or something. I don't necessarily think that would mean he missed like Mania or miss any of the other, like miss the Rumble. I don't know. We really don't know the specifics. But the one thing that I did notice, and Clark, I'm stunned you did not point this out because you're an aficionado of pointing out shirts and symbols and everything else. Cody was all in black last night. So that is typically
his WWE career. I was waiting for someone to say it. That's where I was going next.
Oh,
but
yeah, you were waiting.
it.
Yeah, okay.
No, that's how I was going to finish the show. We have time left.
No, but I think the side of him, the aggressive side, anybody that's watched The Boys, Homelander is not necessarily like to part of the audience. He's a good guy. People believe he's the guy. And then other people see through the facade as the series goes on. And then eventually everyone recognizes, oh no, he's an out of control lunatic. I could see them doing that. It's dramatic. It's different. If they are truly trying to shake up creative because of the ratings or whatever the story may be, it's the logical move. At some point, he's going to have a heel run. And I think he's going to have a phenomenal heel run. I think Cody is one of those performers that could excel as a babyface or heel. When everything's said and done, he's going to be able to do both.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that he has that in him. And the reason I know he had it in him is because I saw him do the heel run in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
Which a lot of people maybe didn't see that or only watched WWE, but he's got it in him. You know what I mean? Like, that's the character. Now, if you bring Brandy in, like they did in Ring of Honor, as his, ballet, whatever you want to call it, I think you can get really interesting with this. A heel run Cody is probably a logical move.
I think so too. Now, one more thing I want to add before the end is with Jacob Fatu, there were a lot of rumors about injuries and whatnot and stuff. And there were certain rumors that I'm not even going to address on this program other than this. They wouldn't have been able to film those segments if that wasn't true. What happened last night. So stop it with Jacob Fatu. Stop judging him for his past. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's not fun. That's not cool. And it's not right. And it's not nice. The guy doesn't deserve it. That kind of judgment being passed is unacceptable. 100%. Jacob Fatu has built himself a heck of a career in the WWE, and no matter what you think about him as a performer, to levy accusations against him as far as what may have or may have not happened is ridiculous. And the guy still showed up to work and filmed an amazing segment last night with Cody Rhodes. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that because whether it was with Cody Rhodes or not, there was the one with Cody and then there was the other one, film two. So listen, let's be clear.
Everyone that works with Jacob, no one has a negative word about Jacob.
Absolutely.
He is one of the most beloved guys backstage. Everyone says it. I legitimately think the rumor that I did see was something about the mouth surgery or something with his teeth, which would fall in line with how they portrayed it last night because it was teeth on the ground, blood. They're playing it off. So I personally think it's medical related, not anything to do with anything else.
Same, 100%. And yeah, absolutely. Honestly, we could talk about this for the rest of the afternoon, but we also do know that everybody's got something to get to if you're a wrestling fan, and that is tonight's AEW show. So get after that. That'll be a blast. And then we've also got awesome content coming up WWE-wise over the next few months, everywhere across the board. Of course, for Sunday, tomorrow, we'll be back same time, same place. That's going to be at noon Pacific, 3 o'clock over on the East Coast, 8 o'clock in the UK, and of course, 9 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. On behalf of me, Anthony, Ignacio, everybody at WR, have a great rest of your Saturday. Stay safe, enjoy the wrestling, and we will talk to you soon.